Welcome back, everyone. In this video, our goal is to add some nodes inside of our landscape material so that we have some control over the size of each texture that gets painted onto our landscape. This is going to allow us to easily scale up or scale down the size of each individual texture. Right now, I have our created landscape material added to this landscape, and you can see some grass tiling going on out here. Now, this would apply to any of these layers, really, gravel, path, rock. You see a lot of tiling, and it doesn't look really good. What can we do about it? Well, for starters, those of you that took the material shortcut, you don't have to worry about this because all of this is already built into your version of the material. So if you took the shortcut for the material a few videos back, you can skip this video and the next one on texture variation. So this video and the next one are only for those who decided to build their material manually. Okay, got it? Those of you that built your material manually, let's go ahead and open up M-Material Created. First things first, let's find our way up to these texture sample nodes up here, specifically to this mud texture sample node. And right in front of this, what we're going to do is we're going to right-click in some empty space and do a search for Landscape Layer Chords node. Now, what this node allows us to do is we could plug this straight away into the UVs of any texture sample, and we could scale it according to whatever mapping scale we give this node. I'm going to give it a value of 1.0 right now, and this would actually be a way to control the size of each texture sample right away, but I want to build a material with a little bit more flexibility. So we're going to break this wire by holding down the Alt key and left-clicking. And I'm going to bring in a multiply node by holding down the M is in multiply, and left-clicking. And we're going to plug our landscape chords node into the A value, and into the B value, we're going to right-click and type in scalar parameter. This allows us to provide a name for a parameter. We're going to call this mud tiling. And then provide a value. We're going to give this a default value of 0.2. And we're going to multiply this 0.2 value by our mapping scale of 1.0. And then we're going to plug this into our UVs. Now, what we just did here is made it in such a way that we're going to have a parameter that we can talk to, modify easily in something that we create called a material instance, to easily change out these values without having to recompile this material again and again and again, because that takes forever. Okay, so I just hooked up these three nodes to this soil texture. What you can do now is left click and copy, Control C and Control V, and we're going to do that for each of these different texture samples, with the lone difference being that you want to rename this scalar parameter. So for this one, obviously, I'm going to call it grass tiling. Okay, so do that for the next 5 nodes right on down here, and then we'll come back in just a little bit to make sure that we're all on the same page. See you in a little bit. Okay, and now I have that set up before each and every one of my different textures here, and you'll notice that I named all of those scalar parameters the appropriate thing: gravel tiling, path tiling, etc., rock tiling, snow tiling. I kept all the parameters at 0.2, although for the cobblestone tiling, I put that at 0.5, but you'll be able to play with these values at another time to see the difference. Now, the next step we need to take is we are adjusting the scale of all of these textures, but we are not yet adjusting the scale of all of these textures to map. Now, what I could do is I could simply copy and paste all these nodes and plug them down here. That's one possible approach. Although I don't want to do that, I am simply going to take what I have here, this result of my multiplication, and I'm going to take this mud tiling out of that multiply and plug it down into this UV texture for this soil, mud, normal map. Now I'm going to have some wires that are kind of crossing here, but I'm going to do this for each one of these. So for my grass tiling, the result of this multiplication, I'm going to plug it into the corresponding normal map, ground grass underscore N down here. So I think you get the point for all of those. Go ahead and do that, and we'll see you back in a little bit. All right, and from a 10,000 foot view, this is what I currently have in our material now. You can see that the results of all these multiplications down here are flowing into both the regular texture samples as well as their corresponding normal texture samples, okay? You can see I've just kind of moved some nodes around a little bit just for organizational purposes. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this. And when I do this, the whole material is going to begin to recompile. And this can take a long time, and it's really annoying. And you don't want to do this again and again and again whenever you make some change. You can see compiling shaders more than 1,000. This is no good for trying to make tweaks and tunes to your landscape material. So this is why we are doing this work ahead of time, building out some scalar parameters. So later on down in the course, when we create this thing called a material instance, we can make changes to the size of our various tiles here, and we don't have to recompile shaders again and again. So a little pain now for some long-term gain. All right, I'm going to jump back to my map sculpting. You can see everything is grayed out while the compiling is going on. I'm going to pause the video here and then come back when this is finished. All right, shaders have finished recompiling, and this is what we've got so far. Our grass tiling has changed, but we will change it again so you can see a more drastic difference as well. There's some other stuff I want to change in our material, namely, our material is looking rather shiny here. We don't really want any of our landscape textures to come across as shiny. So let's jump back into our M material created. Take note of our tiling size, by the way. I am going to come under our grass tiling, and instead of 0.2, I'm going to put this to a value of 2. And then I'm going to come back to where our master material node is. I'm using the right mouse button to move around. And I'm going to hold down the 1 key and left click to bring in a constant 1 node. And this is going to allow us to plug in a value into some of these other inputs. I'm going to plug a value of 0 into metallic and specular. 0 means I don't want anything to come across as shiny or metallic, no matter what my landscape texture is. I want it to look a little bit rough. To help enhance the roughness, I'm going to hold down the 1 key and left click again. Only this particular node, we are going to change the value. We're going to give it a value of 1. And if we plug this into roughness, that is saying we want 100% roughness. Here we are saying we want 0% metallicness or specular shininess. So let's save this once again. Yes, indeed. We are going to get some shaders that recompile, and I will come visit you back after this is finished. See you in a moment. And we are back. Now let's take a look at what we've got. We changed our grass tiling to a value of 2.0. And if you'll notice, I didn't change the camera angle here. The tiles got much, much smaller. So it's a little counterintuitive. Bigger numbers equal smaller tiling. Smaller numbers equals bigger tiling. Also, you'll notice we don't have any shininess going on in our landscape anymore. We got rid of that by adding these 2 constant 1 nodes to our metallic, specular, and roughness. Now, I don't actually like this really tiny grass tiling, so I'm going to change this back between videos to a value of 0.2. But guys, that is going to do it all for this video on how to change up some of the texture tile sizes. We'll see you in the next one.